Okay, so after our narrator wraps up that part of his speech, he swallows some of his own blood, um, and he's giving his speech, and he starts talking about social responsibility. In this time period, in this context, social responsibility means behave yourself. And for white people telling black people, social responsibility means behave yourself. Don't go near our women, work for cheap for us, pick cotton at a low rate, sit in the back of the bus, do not vote. You are second class. That is your responsibility. That is your place. So he keeps saying social responsibility, and they say, yeah, yeah. And then finally it pops out of his mouth by accident. Again, this is part of his, we're seeing his consciousness being raised a little bit in this story. It slips out social equality. Ooh. The laughter hung smoke-like in the sudden stillness. So they're laughing. Say it, boy. Say social responsibility. Say it. And he says social equality. And I opened my eyes, puzzled. Sounds of displeasure filled the room. The MC rushed forward. They shouted hostile phrases at me, but I did not understand. A small, dry, mustached man in the front row blared out, "Say that slowly, son." "What, sir?" "What you said. Social responsibility, sir," I said. "You aren't being smart, were you, boy?" "No, sir." "You're sure that equality was a mistake?" "Oh, yes, sir. I was swallowing blood." "Well, you better speak more slowly so we can understand. We mean to do right by you, but you've got to know your place at all times." "All right, now go on with your speech." You've got to know your place. Your place is as a second-class citizen because of the color of your skin. We're going to help you here, boy. But your place. Awful stuff, people. And we've come a ways from this, but we still have a long way to go with race relations in our country. It's an ongoing effort. But I do agree with President Obama, who often quoted Martin Luther King. The arc of justice, the arc of history bends toward justice. You gotta believe. And then later, when they present him with his gift, the MC comes back. "Gentlemen, you see that I did not overpraise the boy. He makes a good speech, and someday he'll lead his people in the proper paths." He'll lead his people, not become a great leader of people. He'll lead his people in the proper path. The proper path is social responsibility, behaving and serving us, the white people. Why did they ask him to come give this particular speech? Because the speech is about social responsibility, what the white guys are for. It's not about social equality. He does get a nice scholarship to an all-black college. And there were all-black colleges, and there still are. His HBCs, they're called, historically black colleges. Howard University is one of the more famous ones. And they do give him a nice leather valise, which his blood spills out on. They give him a nice leather valise, and he does get a scholarship to the black college so that he can come back and be a leader of his people, not a leader of the white people. Separate but not equal. So that's the core of the narrative of the story. Now it is framed by two very important parts. And I think a couple of you asked about these. By the way, I hope you're all doing okay out there in the world. Dylan, I still think 3, 2, 1 in the morning when I have to get myself out of bed, because I don't set an alarm, though I still wake up. About 4:30. But 3, 2, 1, I get up. Cody, I hope you're doing well. Also, And who else have I not shouted out to? Magnus. Magnus, I think you were the first to post here. And I think we already answered your question. I'm having a hard time trying to understand the existence of the Battle Royal. Good. This should be something foreign to us. So good for you. Marissa, you had some great comments here about the blindfold. We talked about that already. And this is entertainment for the white men. But it's more than that. It's teaching. This is a teaching story. Just like the next black male writer we're going to study. This is a teaching story. They're teaching these young black men to beat up on each other, to know their place, to know social responsibility. Carly, hope you're doing well. Also, gives white men a sense of power. Very, very good. Yeah, the blindfold. Yeah, bigger lesson. Very good, Carly. I think it was to teach a bigger lesson about the power and blindness of different people during the time, to teach the black people the power of the white. And then we get to the conflict within the main character. The conflict within the main character. So, it starts at the beginning when his grandfather is on his deathbed. He has a deathbed utterance, always a cool thing. And the grandfather says, son, as he's dying, he says this to our narrator, son, after I'm gone, I want you to keep up the good fight. I never told you, but our life is a war. And I've been a traitor all my born days. A spy in the enemy's country ever since I gave up my gun back in the Reconstruction. That's the period right after the Civil War. Live with your head in the lion's mouth. I want you to overcome them with yeses, undermine them with grins, agree them to death and destruction. Let them swallow you till they vomit or bust wide open. He is not preaching social responsibility. He's preaching fake it. Fake social responsibility, but get inside the system and get inside them and blow them up. Blow them up. These are his instructions from his deathbed. He's been a traitor to the white society that Grandpa's black, but he's infiltrated and become a traitor to them. And of course, the rest of the family, who are probably trying to be law-abiding, responsible, socially responsible, they're like, oh, well, okay, that's Grandpa's losing his mind here. But it gets in Grandpa's head, right? It gets in Grandpa's head. And then throughout the story, our narrator is torn between pleasing the white people and them all going, you got to understand this. He's young. These are the people in town who have nice cars, nice houses, have the money, and they're accepting him and applauding him and saying, you're a good boy. And he says, oh, that's got to be pleasing. It would be. I understand that. But then something in him, whatever his grandfather put in there, he says, no, I don't want these people's approval. Have you ever had someone's approval? Someone tells you good job and you're like, I don't like that person. I don't want their approval. If they're approving of what I'm doing, it can't be good. This happens. And that's what's going on with the boy here. He gets their approval and he likes it for a minute and then realizes somewhere inside him, his conscience is saying, no, these aren't the people you want telling you you're doing a good job. You must be doing a bad job. And then the dream at the end. When I reached home, everyone was excited. The neighbors came to congratulate me. That night I dreamed I was at a circus with his grandfather, and that he refused to laugh at the clowns no matter what they said. So clowns symbolize the white people, and Grandpa's not laughing at them. He's not being deferential like he has been as a spy in the enemy's territory, the white people. Then later he told me to open my briefcase and read what was inside it, and I did. finding an official envelope stamped with the state seal, and inside the envelope I found another and another endlessly, and I thought I would fall of weariness. Them years, he said. Them's years, he said. Years going by. Each envelope is a year. Now open that one, and I did. And in it I found an engraved document containing a short message in letters of gold. Read it, grandfather said out loud. To whom it may concern, keep this boy running. And the message that this dream is coming to him because as a young person he can't process it yet, but the dreams are your things, your subconscious working it out. And in his subconscious he knows that he can't continue to seek approval of the white man. At some point he's going to have to fight against them, whether from inside or outside of their group. He's going to have to do that. And it was a dream he remembered forever. So this is a story. We see a young black man. His consciousness is starting to open up. He's starting to become aware that just making everybody in town happy, especially the upper class white people, is not a route to is not the right thing to do. And he needs to fight them. He needs to fight them. And anything he does that meets their approval can't be good. And Grandpa knew that, and Grandpa gave him that deathbed message, and it's gotten through to him. So a very disturbing story, as it should be. Did these things happen? Of course they happened. Of course they happened. Next week's story is by James Baldwin, is much more violent and difficult. I warn you ahead of time. But it's also important, and it's also something that happened. So a very valuable and worthwhile story. A black male writer, and there were black male painters and playwrights, and in the time period of musicians, as a part of a group called the Harlem Renaissance, who were creating marvelous art like this, writing and, as I said, painting, sculpture, etc. But also bringing attention to civil rights and the lack thereof. And we still see this today. The latest news on the coronavirus. More African Americans are dying from it than anybody else. The numbers are unbelievable because of racism for 400 years in this country. They live in worse conditions. Their health is poor because they're not able to get jobs that sometimes white people are, and neighborhoods that they live in, and their social and economic status, which is a result of years of racism, have made them less healthy. And because of that, they're getting killed in the greatest numbers by the coronavirus. Older folks as well, but younger African Americans. And whenever something like this happens, Hurricane Katrina, we saw the same thing, and we all scratch our heads and say, "Oh, that's horrible." And I don't know what to do about it. It's important to read stories like this, and I hope you're doing well. And I'm sure you're all for social equality and doing your part, and we'll be talking more about race before the semester's over. But you've got to keep posting on the discussion boards. I think 8 out of 15 of you did on this story, and there's no reason that only 8 of you should do it. I'm not looking for genius here. Give me some questions, some comments, whatever, but you've got to do it, people. We've got to stick together and get through this. We only have about 5 more weeks left. I think even less than that. And we'll get our credits, you'll learn a lot, and we'll be moving on with our lives.